In 1986, Sudan was caught in a civil war between the Sudanese government and the Sudan People's Liberation Movement. In 2005, the two forces signed the Comprehensive Peace Agreement outlining Sudan's political transition from war to peace. As part of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, the Sudanese government agreed to hold national elections in 2009, the first in 21 years. NDI saw the upcoming elections as an opportunity to engage the Sudanese citizenry in its emerging democracy. In the run-up to the 2009 elections, NDI, working in partnership with Sudan Radio Service, began implementing a civic education radio program. The radio program, Let's Talk, engaged citizens at the local level in the national dialogue by reaching out to populations in remote areas of southern Sudan and engaging them in discussions about the issues facing their fragile nation. Let's Talk consists of a 30-minute radio program featuring an information segment and a radio drama segment. The drama segment centers around a fictional southern Sudanese family grappling with civic issues, including participating in the national census and women's right to refuse marriage. In addition to the radio broadcasts, NDI organizes listening groups of civil society members. Here, participants discuss the program's topics and their relevance to their communities. Together, these three components help improve participants' knowledge of constitutional rights and increase their civic participation. As Let's Talk got underway, thousands of people tuned in. Listeners were engaged, often calling the radio program to enthusiastically express their opinions on the various topics and themes. Hundreds more Sudanese were participating in discussion listening groups within their local communities. Despite the popularity of the radio and discussion programs, NDI had many questions about the effectiveness of its program design. Yes, the field team had collected numbers that showed the wide reach of the program. But could a radio program have an impact? Could a radio program not only help listeners take topics to heart, but also take action? Could NDI's program actually increase civic participation? In essence, NDI wanted to know if the program it designed could do more than share information. Could the program change citizen behavior? Committed to understanding the impact of its programs, NDI set about answering these questions. Susan Page and Dan Vexler partnered with Dr. Elizabeth Levy-Pollack, a professor from Princeton University with an interest in the effects of the media, community dialogue, and education programs on behavior. Dr. Pollack worked with NDI to design a field experiment that could demonstrate the kind of impact NDI's civic education program would have on its participants. Dr. Pollack suggested that the best methodology for determining the program's impact was an RCT, or a randomized controlled trial. In RCTs, program participants are randomly selected and control groups are created to determine the impact of different variables. These comparison groups would help determine the impact each of the program components had on Let's Talk participants. The Let's Talk RCT was designed as follows. A set of new NDI listening groups was created and assigned to 12 different variations of the original program. A control group that did not participate in the intervention was also created. The program variations were created as follows. Of all the listening groups participating in the intervention, some did not participate in a CEO or Civic Education Officer-led discussion, and the rest did participate. Of the listening groups that did not participate in a CEO-led discussion, some participated in only the drama segment, others participated in only the education segment, and the rest participated in both the drama and education segments. Of the listening groups that did participate in a CEO-led discussion, some participated in only the drama segment, only the education segment, or both the drama and education segments. You can see that so far, there are 6 program variations. 2 theme tracks were also created for the intervention groups. Participants in Track 1 would only receive the programming on Principles of Democracy, Free and Fair Elections, and Corruption. The participants in Track 2 would only receive programming on Women as Voters and Candidates, Women's Rights, and Citizenship. Here you can see how the groups were placed into one of the 2 tracks. This means that we ended up with 12 different types of groups. 6 groups for Track 1 and 6 groups for Track 2. This program design tested several program components. First, the effect of discussion encouragement. This is why some groups participated in a CEO-led discussion and others did not. Second, the effect of different types of media. This is why some groups participated in only the education segment, only the radio drama segment, or both. And third, the effect of the content. This is why some groups participated in different tracks. Each of the 12 different types of intervention groups participated in a one-day experiment. It took a total of 12 days for all intervention groups to participate. Each randomly selected participant was asked to bring along 3 friends. An NDI-trained CEO also joined each group to collect data. This meant that a total of 4 participants and 1 CEO would be involved in each listening group. All intervention groups that met on any given day were selected in this same way. The information from the control group was also taken from this type of friend group. In total, 173 listening groups were held over this 12-day period. Here you see a group of friends gathering for the programming. There are a total of 5 people here: the randomly selected participant, his 3 friends, and 1 CEO. In the middle, you can see the radio through which they listened to Let's Talk. The day of procedure and data collection included the following: a one-on-one civic knowledge and behavior pretest interview with each participant, the 3 Let's Talk episodes based on the content in each track, a one-on-one post-interview with each participant, and a month-long follow-up to determine levels of civic participation. On the day of each one-day experiment, CEOs observed and tracked discussion. In this picture, you can see the CEO recording on a card the ways in which participants engaged in the discussion. This is what the discussion observation card looks like. At the top, the CEO writes the participants' names. On the left, he has a list of codes that he uses to explain the ways in which participants are involved in the discussion. Here you can see the completed scorecard. You can see that Rose was by far the most active participant in the discussion. She responded to questions and offered her opinion more than 3 times as often as other participants. The questions Rose answered could have been prompted by other participants or by the CEO. Mary, Frances, and Florence had more limited participation, with only 5 to 6 recordings made for each of them. Most of Mary's comments were agreements or questions. Frances and Florence made mostly opinions and responses to questions. After conducting the field experiment, the research team was ready to analyze the data and identify the program's impact. Remember, the field study was designed to determine the impact each of the program's components would have on citizen behavior. The CEO had a very positive effect on the participants' discussion. Groups left to discuss on their own only made an average of 4.6 comments, while CEO-moderated groups made an average of 17.6 comments. Beyond just generating more discussion, the CEO helped create a balance between men and women. In the absence of a CEO, men dominated the conversation, when a CEO was present, there was no statistically significant difference between contributions made by men and women. The research team measured change in knowledge using pre- and post-test surveys. Two general trends were identified in the data. To explain these trends, we'll use the data from the democracy episode as an example. The first trend showed that the presence of a CEO significantly increased participants' political understanding. Within the group of participants who did not listen to the radio episode, those who participated in a CEO-led discussion scored an average of 11% higher than those who did not. The same is true for the set of participants who did listen to the episode. Participants who participated in a CEO-led discussion scored almost 9% higher than those who did not. The research team also found a second trend demonstrating that listening to radio episodes increased participants' political knowledge. The data shows that participants who did not listen to the radio episode scored only an average of 66.9% or 78%, depending on whether a CEO encouraged discussion. However, participants who did listen to the episode scored an average of at least 15% higher, answering 84.3% or 93% of the questions correctly. As you noticed, the previously mentioned findings demonstrate a clear short-term programmatic impact. Beyond these immediate results, NDI wanted to identify the impact of their program on citizens' behavior. To that end, the field study measured behavioral change in two areas: corruption reporting and civic participation. To measure corruption reporting, the research team gave all participants, including the control group who did not listen to the program, a blank form letter. The letter was titled Corruption Report, and the instructions read, "NDI is writing a report about the types of corruption in Juba. Tell us about the kind of corruption that happened to you or to someone you know. Please do not use names. Please report to NDI using the telephone number on the top of this sheet, or return it to the NDI office using the map below." 31 intervention participants did bring corruption letters to the NDI office. However, none of the control participants reported corruption. The participants who were most likely to report corruption were those who were exposed to the citizenship episode, not the corruption episode. However, among those who reported corruption, 100% of participants who had listened to the corruption episode reported corruption correctly. Participants who had not been exposed to the corruption episode were significantly more likely to report an event that was technically not corruption, such as theft. These results show important effects from the corruption and citizenship episodes. The corruption episode taught listeners to distinguish incidents of corruption from incidents of injustice or crime. There was a clear change in knowledge. However, the citizenship episode changed behavior by motivating people to bring in a report. The field experiment measured the impact of the citizenship episode on participant civic behavior in two ways. 1. Asking for donations, and 2. Providing volunteer opportunities. NDI described the purpose and activities of 4 CSOs, or civil society organizations, currently operating in Juba. Participants were then asked if they would be interested in donating a maximum of 5 Sudanese pounds to any of these CSOs. All participants knew they would receive a £25 payment at the end of the day for their participation. In total, participants donated £1,031 with an average donation of £1.5. 63% of all participants donated. There was no statistical difference between donations made by control group or intervention group participants. This means that the radio episodes and discussion programming did not affect monetary support for CSOs. The research team also asked participants whether they would like to take the contact information of any CSOs for volunteer opportunities. Again, the radio and discussion programming did not increase the likelihood of taking the contact information. After waiting approximately 1 month, the research team contacted each of the 4 CSOs to find out whether any participants had actually volunteered. Here, the research team found strong and significant effects of both the CEO-led discussions and the radio episode content. A total of 21 participants volunteered to help the organizations. All of the volunteers had experienced CEO-led discussions. Moreover, of the volunteers, 91% had been exposed to the citizenship episode. The partnership between NDI and academia proved to be a fruitful one, providing clear evidence that the Let's Talk program had a sound hypothesis that could indeed change citizens' civic knowledge as well as their civic engagement. The Sudan field experiment illustrates one of the many ways NDI is using evaluations to capture innovation from its field programs, as well as implement evidence-based programming. NDI is committed to using evaluations as a means of ensuring program quality, learning from its global experience, and sharing promising practices with democracy practitioners around the world. Thank you for joining us on the Sudan Let's Talk Evaluation Tour. For more information on monitoring, evaluation, and learning at NDI, please visit our ndi.org site.